Hey, what's going on, everybody? Isaac here. So, I'm going to give you another little bit of a history lesson today. Plus, since we talk a lot about blades on this channel, we'll also toss in a couple pictures of some blades owned by some people in this story. So, I'm going to tell you how my town changed the course of history during the American Civil War. And it has to do with the Battle of Gettysburg. But it didn't take place in Gettysburg, because I don't live in Gettysburg. Anyway, now, the Gettysburg campaign, not the battle itself, which was July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The campaign started like a month before that. Both armies, the Union and the Confederate, were camped out in the Fredericksburg, Virginia area. Then Robert E. Lee decided he would go attack the North. And he moved the Confederate Army, the Army of Northern Virginia, out from Fredericksburg up, or actually down, rather, the Shenandoah Valley and up into Pennsylvania eventually. It took a while because, 75,000 guys got to walk that far. That's a far walk. Plus supply lines and all that. You're not just walking. Anyways. Robert E. Lee's army was going north, down the Shenandoah Valley, up into Pennsylvania, using the mountains there to screen his army from view from the Union Army. Now, on the other side of that mountain, the Confederate cavalry commander, James Ewell Brown Stuart, commonly known as Jeb, he was to be on the other side of the mountains, watching out for the Union Army and to send reports back to Robert E. Lee so that his army could safely move down the valley and not have further engagements with the Union Army. Now, General Stuart was advised by a partisan ranger who I talked about a little bit in a video last week. His name was John Singleton Mosby. I think at this time in the war he had the rank of major. He would end it as a colonel. Now, Major Mosby, he was friends with General Stuart, and General Stuart had actually given him his command as a partisan kind of battalion to roam about Northern Virginia and raid Union supply lines and cause a ruckus. So anyway, Major Mosby advised General Stuart to go on the other side of the Bull Run Mountains in a town called Haymarket, Virginia, and go up the Old Carolina Road into Pennsylvania. Now this would be modern day U.S. Route 15. You can go up that highway from Virginia to New York, maybe even beyond. I don't know. I've never gone that far on it. So the Union Army had been moving as well. They weren't just standing there around Fredericksburg. They knew Robert E. Lee was on the move somewhere. So they started heading north as well and came into this area of Northern Virginia. There was a few cavalry clashes in towns of Middleburg, Aldie, and Upperville in mid-June of 1863. General Stuart clashed with a young Union cavalry debonair named George Armstrong Custer, and others as well. But Custer, of course, one of the most famous officers in American history. Now, as I mentioned previously, Major Mosby had advised General Stuart to pass through the town of Haymarket and go up the Old Carolina Road into Pennsylvania. And he arrived there June the 25th, 1863, about 6 days before the Battle of Gettysburg started. Now, when Stuart arrived in Haymarket on the Old Carolina Road, he ran smack into the Union Second Corps under command of General Winfield Scott Hancock, who was a pretty good general by Union Army standards. They had a lot of issues with some officers there. And Stuart did not want to run into an entire corps of the Union Army, which probably was around upwards of 20,000 soldiers at full strength. I don't know the exact number that General Hancock would have had with him, but Stuart's cavalry was about 5,000. So they would be greatly outnumbered. But anyway, Stuart had his artillery, boom, 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 fire off some shots at Hancock's corps. And Stuart's cavalry decided, yeah, we got to get out of here. There's too many of them. So they retreated back down the road toward a place called Buckland Mills, which is just a few miles away. So anyway, Haymarket, Virginia was where this took place, a place I call my home. And Stuart's delay here really, depending on which opinion you like, it changed the course of the Battle of Gettysburg and therefore the entire Civil War. Right there, outside, over that way. I don't know the exact spot. I don't think anyone does. But it happened here. Now, since General Stuart ran into that corps, he had to go way round about, kind of even really behind enemy lines in northern Virginia and up through Maryland, like the D.C. suburbs there, like Rockville and such. He really took the long way around to get to Gettysburg. And since he did that, he could not get reports and reconnaissance to General Robert E. Lee. So Lee had no idea where General Stuart and the cavalry were, and since he didn't know where they were, he had no idea where the Union Army was. No idea. He had no idea if they were still... He probably knew they had left Fredericksburg, but he didn't know if, say, General Lee was up here at Williamsport, Maryland. He didn't know if they were in Leesburg, Virginia, or also in Williamsport, Maryland. Lee just didn't know because he didn't have the eyes of his army, Jeb Stuart, because he was off riding around trying to avoid the Union Army. And he missed the first 2 days of the Battle of Gettysburg. He didn't arrive until late on July the 2nd, and Lee kind of reamed him out a bit. So the Battle of Gettysburg kind of happened by chance, because that's just where the two armies happened to meet. Because Lee had no idea where the Union Army was. They just happened to converge at Gettysburg because there's a lot of different roads that meet up there. And, in case you didn't know, the Confederate Army under Robert E. Lee had been extremely successful at that point in the war, in a lot of different battles in 1862 and 63 in Virginia, after Robert E. Lee took command of the army. Extremely successful. They won it all, kicked butt. So Robert E. Lee made some decisions at Gettysburg that didn't work in his favor, and his army was decimated, at least a division of it anyway, on July 3rd, 1863, in an event known as Pickett's Charge. At Gettysburg, these guys walked across an open field, got destroyed by General Winfield Hancock's corps, who Jeb Stuart ran into in my town of Haymarket. And Robert E. Lee retreated back to Virginia, and for the most part fought a very defensive war from that point to the end in April 1863, or April 1865. The war ended. So close off to 2 years he fought a very defensive war in Virginia, really invented the trench warfare that the world would see in World War I. And, the rest is history. Those events, there's no more Confederacy. Here in Virginia, we're a part of the United States of America, not the Confederate States of America. So, the events of my town changed it all. And for you knife enthusiasts I mentioned at the beginning, here you can take a look at General Stuart's saber. And here, a pretty cool one, on almost 12 inches in overall length, a folding dagger carried by John Singleton Mosby during his time in the Civil War. All right, take care, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed this historic tale. If you like these type of videos, check out one from last week where I talked about the Lincoln Conspiracy. And also check out a live video that I did on Sunday. A few folks joined, where I talked about some history there as well. And definitely some events in the Revolutionary War that took place in the area where I grew up in Pennsylvania. Take care. Until next time, it's Isaac the New Backwoodsman.